Rock and roll. Welcome to the live show Tuesday, February 22nd. You better get ready for a massively intense intro. You better get ready. If you're sleepy and you're just waking up, then turn your volume down. Let's get pumped up.
You better get ready. Does not matter if there's a storm outside or there's a storm in the charts. Doesn't matter if you just got out of bed and don't even have your contacts in yet. You better get ready to get lit. Do you feel me? Are you ready? You need to start this day off by hitting that like button like a hungry mad gorilla. We are going to make a storm out of these charts, and we are going to dive in and make a splash. Are you ready to go live? Let's go. You better get ready. You better get ready. Does not matter if there's a storm outside or there's a storm in the charts. Doesn't matter if you just got out of bed and don't even have your contacts in yet. You better get ready to get lit. Do you feel me? Are you ready? You need to start this day off by hitting that like button like a hungry mad gorilla. We are going to make a storm out of these charts, and we are going to dive in and make a splash. Are you ready to go live? Let's go.
Well, I didn't realize it would do it twice if I tried to change the scene before it was quite over. Sorry about that. All right, so let's dive in. I want to show you what I think is most important from a larger perspective here. I have on the daily chart these two EMAs that you see here is called the EMA fill indicator. I have on the daily 21, which is the shorter term time frame one. So now it's on bottom. That's why it's red. And the daily 89 is on top. So typically my 89 is purple, but for the EMA fill, whatever, it's the 89. Therefore, you can also see the general distance between these two and the overall level of bearishness, as it gets deeper, as this section gets deeper, the more bearish it is, and as it essentially converges, the more likely that it's a ready to bust out type of deal. However, this part down here, see how this line essentially has other lines around it? Let me zoom in so you can see a little bit better. I've essentially taken the master origin line. It's the most important line in all of Bitcoin history. Okay, it goes back about, out of the 12 years, I think it gets 10 years where it's the most important line. Because when Bitcoin was under $1, analysis was totally different then. Anyway, I have a trading channel set up, and what we're going to do is we're going to see how over time, I think it's three prior instances in all of Bitcoin history where this same EMA fill of the daily 21, daily 89, is approaching this master origin line, and you're going to see these lines are all parallel, how price has interacted in this trading channel. So the blue lines are the trading channel around the master origin line, which is the gray one. And we're going to see some really interesting stuff. And then we will use, most likely, I might go to the 12-hour. It's really interesting to see the 12-hour RSI, how it also interacts. But first, we're going to analyze the daily with these EMAs. And then we'll go to the 12-hour and just keep on the EMAs, even though it'll be the 12-hour fill. But we're going to analyze how the 12-hour RSI goes. It's very important to take a look at this. Watch this. Let me zoom out now that we know what we're looking at here. Way out. And again, this is the most important line in Bitcoin history. There really is not any way to argue with that. I'm open to ideas, but I don't think somebody could find a more important line. Okay, check it out. Way back here, when these EMAs flipped and price got close to it, you see how it interacted directly with this, see all this trading channel here? It got directly to it, and that was the bottom. That was the bottom for this. The next bear market, the same EMA fill flipped red, and exactly when this EMA fill got up to this trading channel, in general terms, that was also the bottom. Then after Bitcoin went from 3,200 to 14K, this flipped red again. It went to it, rallied, and then spilled below it. And we're going to zoom in here. We're going to zoom into each of these here in just a second. But in general terms, that's what's happening again. Look, the EMA fill went red. It's approaching it. It's on the same line and the same trading channel. All right. We're going to look at probably the coronavirus one last, but let's look at the first two first, and then we're going to see how freaking close it is to what Bitcoin's doing, literally how it's dancing in the trading channel around that line. It's like what is happening right now is literally I can't stress this enough. And I've been having problems with my left eye here recently, so I have some glasses on right now. But Bitcoin, I hope, so this analysis, the most important aspect of this is critical timing. This is a critical juncture for Bitcoin. Either this could be a macro low area, or the shit's going to drop hard and there's going to be a capitulation. Because the only time that Bitcoin's gone below this line, it capitulated hard and fast. Does it have to capitulate hard and fast the same way, or does it have to bounce exactly here? Could something else happen? Maybe. History doesn't have to repeat itself. However, history is all we have to base off of, and everything else is more, what ifs, right? But we can definitely see what has happened. And the history is pointing to the strong idea that this line is important. And because Bitcoin's on it, and it's approaching it the same damn way, hopefully it's compelling that this is a critical moment. Either it's going to bounce and potentially be a macro low, or shit's going to go down real hard. And so that's why it's so important to analyze what has happened in the past, and then make conjectures of, okay, what are we looking out for in general? If it's going to be a bounce, what are some things to look out for? What would be the general price paths and the general behavior of Bitcoin? If it's going to tank, in what ways would it tank, right? And so that's what we're going to do first. All right, so let's dive into this. Going back, this is 2015 here. Take a look. As this EMA fill came, right around the trading channel, Bitcoin price went to the big drop, went straight to the bottom line of the channel. Let me make myself a little smaller here. And then came into the channel, made another low, and then worked its way out of it. But look how, let me take off the channel, watch. Oh, that's taking off price. But specifically, after it came back down, it came above, just look at the behavior here. So the first one went to the bottom of the trading channel, had a bounce, came down again. It took 2 tries to get above, actually 3 tries. 1, 2, 3. It took 3 tries for price to get above this origin line again, which is key. So it did technically get rejected a lot. And in one of my recent analysis, I said that would maybe indicate that it's going to roll over. But in this case, I forgot to look back. In this case, it on the daily chart, so this took weeks. Look how long this took. So from the second time it went below it, watch, until it closed the candle above was 20 days. So that's 20 days hanging on a freaking cliff, riding this origin line. You see this? Okay, now let's go to current price before we check out the second one. Let's go to current price now. And let's look how similar that pattern is. Watch. Look. Remember, these... Oh, did I drag one of these lines? Son of a gun. I must have dragged one of these lines around. How did I do that? That line's supposed to be there. There we go. I don't know. I must have moved that accidentally. Okay, anyway. So, again, the first big drop. Remember in the past, it went straight to where? The bottom line. Then in the past, it went above the origin. So the origin line's the gray one. Went above the origin line, made another low. All right. And then Bitcoin did not put in its time this time. So this time it's different. In that first example, then it rode this for 20 days, then broke above. So it put in its time in the past, respecting this line. This time it went down to the same one, came above, went down just like last time, and then zoomed above. And it did not put the time in respecting this line. This was, kind of a bull trappy situation because this price went directly, it barely squeaked out highs above this local high. So this was, I don't know, this looks like a straight up trap to me. Like perhaps even an orchestrated type of one. I'm not for sure. Or Bitcoin just being tied to the stock market. That's how it happened. I'm not for sure. Anyway, now that we know it's different, what we're looking for is Bitcoin to put in some time on or just below this origin line here. And I don't know if it's completely likely that it's just going to crash from here. However, once we look at what happened in March 2020, you need to make the conjecture that it is possible. So a capitulation event could be imminent, as in early next month. I mean, hell, even late this month, it could get nasty. However, I don't think that's the most probable case right now. However, I would say that it's going to come up and test this line, and it might ride it for a while. I'm not for sure, but this is the next move I'm looking at is how price gets above here. Now let's put the EMA fill back on. Make sure I got the 21 and wrong one. 21 and 89. I'm looking for price to try to get into this channel, and I don't know if Bitcoin is going to solidly get above this until this channel meets. So I think this channel is going to meet this line as price is coming up here. I don't see price just zooming back into it. All right. And that's one idea based off of how price interacted with it in the past. All right, now let's go not to coronavirus, but this one right here. So again, these are the same lines. They're all parallel, right? Take a look at how this channel came straight to the origin line, and see how it's really fat here, and then it converged. So here, price behaved a little bit. So take a look at that channel. Or not channel, but the EMA fill, how it's fat and exactly at the origin line, it starts getting thinner. Like, this is very, very, important stuff to be looking at here. But Bitcoin behaved totally differently here, even though it came to the same origin line, the same EMA fill came down, but it generally used the origin line as support. It only opened and closed 1, 2, 3, 4 candles below the entire time. This candle did not close below. It only opened below, right? So it opened and closed only 4 candles. Very different from the past, very different from right now. And it rode this line and came up. So we can essentially kind of take this out of play right now, because Bitcoin's already opened and closed too many candles below. But looking at the EMA fill in general, look how price, before it decided to move up, look how price stayed in this channel. In this EMA fill. And look at when that big candle happened, right around the time it flipped. That might be another thing we might be looking for. It could go sideways and up in this trading channel until this EMA fill gets smaller and smaller, and that could create a big move up potentially. And these are things you can do on your chart as well. You would have to manually draw these origin lines, but you just essentially connect current price to the lows of 2019 after it capitulated, and you roughly get the same thing, right? And then all of that should connect exactly to the capitulation event of the previous bear market as well. It'll all connect, all right? But the tricky thing is, it's the second low. It's the second low. So it didn't get the first. It almost got the first low perfectly, but it got the second low. So it's the second low of 2015. The only capitulation of 2019 and current price. Just connect those. All right, so that was a little bit different. However, check this out, though. This is why I think a capitulation event could be imminent. Look, watch what happened in 2019. The EMA fill got to the origin line. It went on a rally and flipped. So it flipped it. Okay, this turned green after this red stuff hit it. And then when price went below the green, it flipped back red, it capitulated. So red approaching origin line, it flipped it, price went back below it, and that was the capitulation event. Well, look what just happened. Look, even though I don't want to scare you, I personally don't know if that's going to happen, but so this price action here was not bullish enough to flip it, but it did come up and touch. Just look. And again, on my channel, I was already saying that the daily 89's like daily 89 and the monthly 10, which are both right here, were going to be the resistance, and that was right. But it rallied into it, tried to flip it, and price came back below it. So if it's anything similar to 2019, this would indicate we could be on the precipice of a freaking capitulation event. It's following very general rules. It's just that this pump right here of price was not strong enough to flip these bands green. But the general idea is the same. The red channel was approaching this. It pumped. It fell back below the channel. And you need to know that is a decent possibility. I'm not saying it's 50% probable or even 25% probable, but you should bet your bottom dollar it's double digits. I mean, it could be 20% probable that a capitulation event is, on the horizon within 20 to 30 days, and perhaps even sooner. Because I mean, it's at the same line. It's at the same area. That's one really important thing to take a look at. And you have pressure. So what I'm about to say here, I don't necessarily believe the ideas that I'm getting ready to tell you. So I want to preface it with that. But if you're on crypto Twitter, it's the space is very full of libertarians who feel that government is more of a threat to them, and folks in Bitcoin want to be freed from that. And in most of their ways to interpret the world and the news is that news is propaganda. It's trying to transfer wealth. Most of the things they published is fairly controlled because there's a revolving door between, especially U.S. politicians, and what the media says. Right, outside of natural disasters are probably in that mindset. I'm not saying I agree with this. In that mindset are some of the only things that aren't approved by government for national media under that mindset. But take a look at that. So just even though if you don't agree with that mindset, the libertarian, the whole Bitcoin Twitter thing, crypto Twitter thing, just imagine that. And now take a look at the front page of, oh damn it, has it changed? No, it hasn't. Now look at the front page of Yahoo Finance with that mindset and try to see the story behind it, specifically with that mindset, whether you agree with it or not. And I'm not saying I agree with it, but it's kind of interesting. Watch. So before we go through just looking at headlines and stuff, it almost looks as if the people who want who might pull strings, it looks like they want to spook stocks to buy lower, but they don't want you to sell your stocks, and they want your Bitcoin. That's what it looks like under that mentality. So watch, very front thing. So this is saying, so the stocks mixed as, Russia, Ukraine, that's essentially saying, hey, let's spook stocks. You all should, especially traders, let's spook traders so we big boys can buy down lower. But down here, see where it says tapping retirement funds is terrible? So most people's retirement funds are where? In the stock market. 401ks and stuff. So let's spook the stock market, but the general people, you shouldn't sell. You shouldn't sell so you can buy lower. Only we want to buy lower. We want to spook traders and stuff and algorithms and hedge funds, but we don't want you normal people to sell because only we want to be able to buy back lower. All right. And so again, that's with this mindset. You don't have to agree with it. And then down here, Bitcoin losing out to gold. Bearish news on Bitcoin. So wanting to scare people out of Bitcoin so they can get your Bitcoin. Another bad Bitcoin one. This is the front page of Yahoo Finance. I mean, Bitcoin's making the top news stuff. Actually, it's not the top one because there's a potential war looming, if you believe that. But then again, another hitting Bitcoin again. So under that mindset, those that type of worldview would have you say, okay, if this is propaganda, that's what people are trying to do. They want to spook stocks to buy lower. They don't want normal people to sell their stocks so they can't buy lower, and we want your Bitcoin. It's absolutely crazy. And if you're into, so I don't do news a lot, but I just perused most of the cryptocurrency news. And the only really two things of interest that I found today is this right here. And one's about Cardano, and it's not bearish, even though most of you, I don't know if most of the live viewers on YouTube know this, but I hate on Cardano all the time, but I give credit where credit's due, and I'm going to give Cardano some credit. It actually is it's pretty interesting, and it's fairly compelling. But the first thing is, as a lot of the metrics are saying, the addresses of Bitcoin holders who haven't moved funds for 1 year is growing, and that's very bullish news long term. Is it immediate bullish news? No, but this kind of agrees with that. So even if there's a capitulation event, a big bear market, all right, less than half of investors say they would exit crypto. That means the market is maturing, specifically in regard to the investors inside of it. Therefore, so that's pointing to the idea that there might not be such a strong capitulation event if that many people are already expecting it, because their market maturity is a little higher, and they already know the possibilities of downside, and they've already stomached it. If it happens, whatever, we're holding through it. And am I saying that's a healthy mindset? Not necessarily. I'm not necessarily condoning that. I want to be clear with that. I'm going to be neutral on that. I'm Switzerland on that. But that's what this is saying here. And all right. Anyway, and I thought that was pretty interesting, because when you have things like hash rate increasing, people selling Bitcoin less, plus just normal investors, less than half are planning to exit, which means more than half are prepared for a capitulation event, and they're already emotionally prepared for it. I think that's big freaking news. And then they go on and say Deutsche Bank is bullish, and it could be all this stuff, because these metrics are saying that the sell pressure might not be there from general investors. All right, now that's not to say hedge funds and all that kind of stuff can't tank it, because that's essentially what is controlling Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin price, especially on daily timeframes and less. All right, and now Cardano news. Let me preface this before I talk about Cardano. So again, I hate on Cardano a lot. I'm not for sure. I'm not so bullish on its long-term future, but I'm going to be unbiased here, with the idea that the true, something I've held on to. It was so when I was going through my first Bitcoin journey and crypto journey in 2017, on that amazing bull run up. One thing I heard a YouTube influencer say, he was a sequential, so I'm not going to name names, but he's the only sequential Bitcoin trader out there. And he's got an interesting channel. He's been doing this for a long time. I think he was like the first ever Bitcoin trader on YouTube. Anyway, so I watched his channel because the space wasn't as saturated as it is now with YouTube, content creators. And he said the true value of any crypto is how used the blockchain is. I mean, think about that. You can rant and rave and do VeChain partnership with Walmart China and all that stuff, which VeChain is like the pro at saying partnerships. But then when you go to that website of the other company they mentioned, you can't find anything, right? So like, what kind of partnership is that? I'm hating on VeChain a little bit, sorry, but most cryptos do that. They name stuff and they name drop other big companies, and then that company doesn't release anything on it. Like, they don't say they're partnered with this crypto. Some of the only exceptions are, I think, Chainlink. I actually saw Chainlink, the other company, name dropped Chainlink, not the other way around. So Chainlink's about the only damn crypto that has legit partnerships, in my opinion. But anyway, so the idea that the true value of a blockchain is based on how used it is, and that the reason I was talking about partnerships is because, well, a partnership, if it doesn't increase the use of your actual blockchain, how valuable is that partnership? Therefore, the only true metric of the real value of a crypto is how much it's used, right? And look at this. So let's go back to the Cardano thing. So transaction volume is going up, and this is essentially bullish divergence in my opinion. Even though I love to hate on Cardano, but I have to be unbiased here. Its on-chain activity has had an explosion, and it surpassed Ethereum in its usage. That is, and it's only second to Bitcoin. As price drops, that in my opinion is a type of bullish divergence. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not. Again, I'm gonna be unbiased. I think you all know my opinions on it, but you can't deny this under those premises. So, I mean, it is possible that I'm going to be totally wrong about Cardano, and I'll have to eat my words, and I will gladly do it. Because I know honestly, I would prefer to eat my words on Cardano, because I know there are a lot of Cardano investors. I would prefer they succeed, right? And I would actually prefer to be wrong, but I would eat my words very, very, very graciously. I would do it, and I would not be shamed by it. I would actually be happy to do it, right? And this is super bullish. And so out of all of the... how did the moon get a freaking advertisement on this page? That's pretty cool. Good for him. But yeah, there we go. That's the only important stuff I saw in the news today. All right. And is there anything else I want to talk about? Oh yeah. So let's say that Bitcoin does, last thing, and then I'll start looking at questions here. If Bitcoin is able to rally up and get above, let's take this off here. And let's go to the 12-hour. And I'm going to put on the 12-hour RSI. So take a look at what this has done. The 12-hour RSI made a major low, went above its EMA, made another major low that was higher than this one. So 1, 2. All this happening around the master origin line. Looking at the RSI signature of previous times Bitcoin's been around here, take a look. Watch. So going back to 2019 after the capitulation from 20K down to 3,200, watch. So I'm at this part, I'm going to zoom into the RSI. Major low, gets above its EMA, another major low, gets above its EMA, third major low. So I'm going to point to that area right here, and I think that third low is what was required before the actual breakout could happen. Wow, talk about conspiracy theories. I talk about they want your Bitcoin and to spook stocks, and then YouTube drives me out. I didn't have connection issues anywhere else, but just YouTube. Check my internet speed. It was on fire, maxed it out. Just YouTube booted me out twice. Very interesting. It's like I shouldn't be talking about that stuff. Maybe I shouldn't do that in the future. All right. Sorry about that. YouTube doing weird stuff for me. Or it could be the interaction of my software with YouTube, but I don't know. Perhaps coincidental. All right. Let's see here. Where I don't. Oh yeah, the 12-hour RSI. So we looked at the 12-hour RSI back here in 2019. Needed 3 higher lows. Big higher lows where it went completely above the EMA, came back down days later. Right now, let's look over here. Let's zoom into 2015. Try to make a mark here. So right here. And you got 1, and it got above its EMA, made another big low, maybe even, I don't know how much time, maybe in a month. So that took 150 days to make another low. So that was a long period of time, right? Look how long that went. So go to this one right here to January 2016. No, that's the wrong one. Oh no, back here, sorry. It made a major low, came above, made another one, made another higher low, and another one. So this one took 3 or 4 tries, so let's go to this one right here. And so this was 1 major low, 2, and 3 on the RSI signature. So go back here, 1, 2, 3 major lows on the 12-hour RSI, maybe even 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But only 3 if you consider it getting above this white line. So 1 above white line, 2 above white line, 3. And right now, on current Bitcoin price action, we could be established. So we have the first one, potentially. And it got above the white line. Number 2, maybe. So in this case, it's possible that Bitcoin goes sideways or chops around sideways and up until RSI and price can go up enough, and then you make another low, because the last 2 times it has approached this, it needed 3 different tries on the 12-hour RSI signature. Like, it needed 3 drives, essentially, 3 strikes. And that could lead you, out until April. So it is possible that Bitcoin just stays boring / creeping up. And it could take months. It could take 60 days. So let's go out to May. Price might do something to, let's say, this effect. And then makes that maybe third low and then spikes up. Maybe not make that so low. It's almost insinuating it's going to go sideways, do one more scare down around this trading channel, and then spike up if the RSI signature for the 12 hours is going to hold its 3 strike type of deal. It looks like we might have gotten the second strike right here. if history is going to repeat itself similarly, that could be what you're looking at. And in that event, that would mean that now is an okay time to dollar cost average. Not financial advice. I'm not offering. Yeah, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not offering financial advice. Rather, if the history repeats itself, it would suggest that now is an okay time to consider. Simply saying what the data is and how I interpret it. I'm not giving you a call to action right now. Because remember, I did say that in one time in history, price at this level did capitulate, and earlier in the stream I did let you know that you need to be fully prepared for possible capitulation within the next 20 days. So I'm not pushing you to do anything at the moment, rather simply what the data says and what it might suggest, okay? With the idea that capitulation event is also, Bitcoin's on a brink, folks. It really could do either one. It could bounce around here, find support, or it could capitulate. All right, so I'm going to start looking at questions here. Okay, I'm going to take a look at the questions from my community members first, who have the little emblems next to their name. So the first one is Tazcat. Oh yeah, you were on this last time. Reminds me of a Mayan type of name. Tezcatlipoca. So LFG USD. I don't know what LFG is. Versus Wrap Tether. I'm not for sure what this is, bro. Straight down. This looks like it's dead. I'm not for sure if LFG is an acronym for like code talk or something, but yeah, this is done. This is absolutely done. It actually did hit zero, which, yeah, this is dead. I would not consider anything that looks like that. All right, Michael D. That was fire. All right, rock and roll. Okay. May the gods of crypto get us 25K. Yeah, 25K. Yeah, if it goes to 25K, though, who said that? If it does go to 25K from the questions, I think Bitcoin, would close a weekly around 25K. I would say it wicks down lower than 20, though, if it's going to get down there. However, it would bounce very, very heavily off of there, and it wouldn't close a week much below 23K. So let's go to the weekly chart, and let's put on just normal EMAs here. And I will do one EMA. Let's see here. So let's do this. Let's do the weekly 200 EMA and the weekly 200 MA. And take a look at previous price history. This bottomed out in 2015 at both of them. So let's zoom way in there. Look. And it happened, this time, back then, it happened at the origin line. But it wicked significantly below the bottom, or no, the EMA. So it wicked significantly below both, but it did not close any weeks below it. And you see that percentage wick? So the percentage below the bottom line was 11%. Let's go to the next one. So just a heads up, if 25K Bitcoin happens, yes, I would assume that a weekly would close up there, but I think Bitcoin would go a little bit lower on the event down. And look how the bright one is the 200 EMA. The dull one is the MA of the weekly. So 200 and 200, EMA's bright, the MA moving average is dull. That got the bottom exactly alongside the origin line. See that? But when coronavirus came, Bitcoin was still more attracted to these MAs and EMAs than it was the origin line. And look how the weekly closure closed right at the EMAs, but wicked significantly below. Right? So 2 times in a row, wicked significantly below. Actually, not in a row, because this time it did not. So 2 for 3, wicked significantly below. So if it's anything similar, if price truly is going to be more attracted to these EMAs and MAs of the weekly, as opposed to holding the origin line as support. Look at the bottom EMA. That's at 20K right now. Let's say it happens in several weeks. So let's just draw a line, kind of imagining where it might be, keeping the same slope, something like that. That's the MA, and it wicked below 10% both this time. So let's say it happens in April. 10% is 18,600. So it would likely wick below there, hit 18K or something to that effect, 19K, and then close the week above 21 in that event. I'm not for sure how likely it is that the EMA will hold. I think it'll want to test both and wick below there, close a week, jump back up to this one. I personally would target just under 20K on a wick, but higher time frames closing, the candle closures, I do not anticipate it happening below 20K, especially a weekly candle. So just a heads up there, if you're game planning 25, just know that this MA has gotten things right in 3 bear markets, and right now it's down here. So that's the dull line. And so just review one more time. Watch. If your target, look. See that? It hit the MA also. Time before that, it hit the MA perfectly. Time before that, it hit both of them. The MA was actually above the EMA at that point. But it hit the MA in every single down market. Every single time. And wicked past it all but once. And this time it really didn't. Therefore, so 25K, yeah, that's the EMA. But in the bear market, the last finale, I almost feel that the MA holds more weight and more power. So I would expect it to wick much lower than that. I would not expect the EMA to hold. Because I think the MA has proven itself as the big daddy one specifically for the finale of a down move. That's my case to that. I could be wrong, but all right, let's take a look at. Come on, program. There we go. Move myself over. All right. The Russians got me. I did timify myself at the beginning. I accidentally played my intro twice. All right. IDEA. Okay, let's take a look at IDEA here. So IDEA is a very small cap altcoin. I think it's at 1.2 million cap right now that I've talked about on my channel because it was a small cap during the altcoin season. Never really took off. But right now, it is holding support at about 10 cents. And these weekly candles are pretty strong. So if Bitcoin's going to bounce here, I think the idea is put in its time, let's say since July, that is 225 days of finding this as support. Yeah, however, but if Bitcoin's going to capitulate, it's probably going to go down lower. It's probably going to, lose 50 more percent and come down to 5 cents, even just below, 4 to 5 cents. I would say if Bitcoin does have a capitulation event down to the weekly MA, you'll probably have a wick significantly below that, even down to 3 cents or 2 cents. But I think the weeklies would generally close above here and then bounce back up, assuming Bitcoin were to behave that way. Because I think the move back up for Bitcoin would be pretty violent, unlike 2019, where it took months to crawl back up. I think it would be more like the coronavirus stuff. I think it would, because in my opinion, I think there's just too much interest in Bitcoin. So that'd be my scope. Either way, if Bitcoin is kind of finding a bottom, is going to grind out, I could see IDEA grinding out between 10 cents and 20 cents, so 10 to 20 cents in this box. During that time, as Bitcoin rides up the origin line, as I showed you, only in that event, right? If there's a capitulation event, I could see IDEA wicking down to 2.5 to 3 cents, closing a weekly around 5, and then working its way back up with Bitcoin in those two instances. Because I don't know which one's going to happen. So I'm providing both cases there. That's what I would expect. All right, S Fund, another community member of YouTube community member. This chart actually isn't that bad. Structurally, it's not that. It doesn't look bad at all. I'm surprised it's still doing this well. Let's see here. Yeah, so this is a pretty nasty cross. All right, I'm not gonna lie. It really. So if Bitcoin doesn't find a bounce here, and Bitcoin does head down lower, this is gonna have a pretty severe move down. This is the weekly bearish cross. Okay. And and when the red is below the yellow and crosses above it, that's super bullish. But this is bad, and it looks like price has been rejected from that. Okay, price went below it, tried to avoid that cross, then got rejected. It looks like it's going to head down, assuming Bitcoin, even if Bitcoin stays sideways, I would expect this to test that back down to at least $5.20. because this cross might put a little bit of pressure down and it's going to have to put in some time. But regardless, even if Bitcoin holds strong, this is probably going to have to put in its time here before it can go up. It's going to take a couple months. And what you're looking for there, the signature you're looking for are at least two, but my key is 3 to 4 weekly closures above the red line, the weekly 10. And that's when it might be ready to go, with the idea that Bitcoin's also ready to go. If Bitcoin were to capitulate, then you're going to probably have the price of this is very likely going to do something like this. It's going to wick down as Bitcoin wicks down to like 18K or something like that. If that were to happen, it'd probably wick down to $2.70, but then close a weekly candle somewhere up here, 350, maybe even 430. You'd have a wick down, then but candle closures come, closer to the top half or the top of the box. But this would be the target for the wick down if Bitcoin were to capitulate somewhere around $2.70. That's what I would say about this one in that event. But if Bitcoin is able to hold strong, I mean, let me go to the daily chart. You do have the daily 200 right here, so it could hold this as support if Bitcoin's able to find support on the origin line. So the other most important line for this asset, for the person who asked, is the daily 200. And what you can do here, what I would strongly suggest you do, is use what's called the MTF EMA. Watch this, MTF EMA. Click that. And then put on and make it so it's the daily 200. And, you can make it whatever color you want. But my 200s are orange and thick. And then I will go to the 2-hour chart. Now I have the daily 200 on as I'm looking at small-term time frames. So this allows you to better view the true interaction that candles have with this 200. If Bitcoin's able to find support on the origin line here, this needs to it can wick below. And honestly, this has done a great job. Look at its behavior around it. Every time it came below it, even though it got rejected here, but it made a higher low, got straight above it. That's good. Then it made another higher low, got above it. Didn't use it as support, but also didn't get rejected by it. It only got rejected by it once. So you're really looking for these rejections. The rejection's bad. If it gets rejection, it has to make a higher low. If it doesn't make a higher low, then it's going down a lot lower. But in general, it hasn't used it as a rejection point at all. Just once. And honestly, this looks like it wants to stay above. It's real. I mean, look how perfect. Let's go down to let's go down to the 30-minute. I mean, look how perfectly this is honestly the line to be looking at here. This is almost, even these little baby wicks down come right to it. Yeah, you're really going to want to look over here. Got it exactly. Almost exactly. Higher low. Yeah, it really wants to use this as support. In current price, it came below it. And this is actually a good sign. Watch. It came below it, but as it was getting above, it made higher lows, got above, perfectly using it as support. This looks like it wants to go up. But you also need to be very aware. And what you could do to make this analysis even better is click MTF EMA 3 times total. So watch, I'll just click it twice. Watch, 1, 2. Now I can put on 2 more, and I can put on the weekly 10. So really with this asset, you're going to want to put on 3 of them and be on the smaller time frame specifically. You'll want the weekly 10 and 21 also. Weekly 10. Let me make it red. And then that's way up there. See that? And then the weekly 21, which I'll make yellow. This is what you're looking for. There's going to be a lot of interesting stuff that happens between this line and trying to avoid this cross or undo it after it crosses. Right when it crosses, it doesn't mean price. So this is on any asset, folks. This is not just this asset. Right when it crosses doesn't mean price is going to tank. Usually after it crosses, price will try to come up and test it. But I could probably anticipate price action if Bitcoin is going to ride its origin line. Price is going to stay between these two and this one. So as the top range and the bottom of the range, it's going to try to do this if Bitcoin's able to stay steady. If Bitcoin tanks below its origin line, well, this is just going to fall way below it, right? But assuming Bitcoin is able to bounce here, this is what you want to be looking at. You want to be in a short time frame with these 3 EMAs, and that's really the way to go. Yeah, that's real. I mean, look. I mean, look. Here it was bouncing between both these lines. Once it broke below it, what did it use as perfect resistance? This exact weekly 21. Got back above, stayed between both of them, got below, hit this line. Yeah, these are the definitely. This chart's actually a lot easier to read. This is a very precise chart. It's kind of rare for that to happen so precisely, but yeah, that's all you need to be looking at. But specifically on lower time frames. And honestly, everybody else, if you don't care about that project as fun, you can use that same trick on other assets as well. BITO. I don't know what BITO is. ProShares Bitcoin Strategy BITO or BITO. I don't know what BITO is. I don't know if I'm looking at the right. So if you're going to ask questions, community members or anybody else, try to be specific. But this, whatever chart it is, yeah, it got rejected by its weekly 10, possibly forming a higher low on a trend line. So really the weekly 10 is the thing to be looking at here. And again, I have the MTF EMA on. I can go down to the 2-hour chart. So now I'm on the 2-hour chart looking at the weekly 10. Look how perfect that got it as resistance. And this has happened across crypto, folks. You can use the same damn trick, okay? Or a type of analysis here. Yeah, it looks like it wants to potentially bounce here and come test the weekly 10 again, whatever this asset is. And this is happening across crypto. So just look at something like, I think Atom might be above its weekly 10. No, it's not. So even look at Atom. Let me take off these. Even Atom has been, so I'm on the 2-hour time frame, but with the weekly 10. I mean, even Atom is below its weekly 10, using it as the perfect rejection point. So if Atom can bounce here, for example, so this is across crypto. You can go on a low time frame, whatever coin you like, put on the weekly 10 with that MTF EMA indicator, and look how price is interacting with it. Because if Bitcoin's going to bounce here, most crypto is going to try to come up to their weekly 10s and play with it. And you're really going to be able to see how the candlesticks on lower time frames are interacting across crypto. That's probably what's going to happen next. All right. ProShares. Yeah, I think I did the ProShares, right? Yeah, that's what I was looking at. Yeah, same thing. Yeah, that's really what you need to do. Low time frames, weekly 10. And then for support, you're just going to have to, use horizontals and a trend line. So something to this effect. So technically it's broken below that trend line. You're going to want to see, so really the trend line is now meeting up with the weekly 10. It might be attractive to there. That trend line might be out of play though. However, my typical rule of thumb is a lower high or a higher low that's more aggressive than a 45-degree angle is not a true higher low. It needs to come up and then come back down to a 45-degree angle. So this could be a setup for its true higher low. Look, 45-degree angle. And you can see here that was a little too aggressive for that. And this came straight in it. It's just a real easy trick, using the projector tool at a 45-degree angle. Yeah, this could be setting up for higher low, assuming Bitcoin stays good. And then you're going to want to take a look at how it interacts with the weekly 10. And it could make multiple higher lows as it tries to get above. Something to this effect. I don't think it would, zoom right above, but something like that, and then try to get above it as this line, as the weekly 10 does something like that. That would be my guess. Under the one situation that Bitcoin can find support at its origin line, which is not guaranteed. All right. Yeah, let's look at Veracity. I got about 5 more minutes here, folks. Okay. Veracity. Okay, that wasn't a bad guess. So from my video on Veracity, I guess that, it's going to get rejected by the 10 and come back down here. That wasn't bad at all. It went a little lower than I thought, but yeah. So again, another coin. This is still the weekly 10 on the 2-hour time frame. Got rejected by its weekly 10, just like everything else. I'm not joking when I say it's the most important EMA, potentially the most important indicator in all of crypto. I'm telling you, the weekly 10 is the most important thing there is. If you could only pick one thing, like the weekly 10 is what you should probably choose. If you were in that weird hypothetical scenario, and I'm only saying it that way to express its importance and the idea that everything is getting rejected by the weekly 10. Everything and its sister and cousin cryptos, right? Everything. Honestly, this looks, man, I don't know. If Bitcoin can hold strong, you're looking at a potential really big squeeze play here, which could get bullish if Bitcoin can hold strong. So the weekly 10 is going to, do this type of stuff, and you're going to get a squeeze. Let me make that red so we know it's the weekly 10. So that's the weekly 10 extended. In price, I mean, if it could hold that box here, you could get that would be a, squeeze plays don't have to happen. So for newer folks to my channel, squeeze play essentially means that, imagine you have a bar of soap in your hands, not a jail reference, okay, but a bar, and you squeeze it. Price is the soap bar, and your two hands, they don't have to be EMAs, right? It's just two important things. One could be a horizontal, one could be an EMA, doesn't matter. But as price gets squeezed between two important things, oftentimes one is an EMA, not always, but usually, price has to make a decision, just like the soap bar has to jettison out as the pressure gets bigger and bigger and those two important lines converge. Price can't just simply stay between them and just move straight out. Honestly, I don't know if you can find a single case that's really ever happened. Depending on, maybe on short-term time frames you can, but daily EMAs with horizontals, it's either going to tank down or it's going to come up aggressively. But regardless of which direction, it's going to be aggressive. That's what a squeeze play is, right? And so this is, so if Bitcoin can hold strong, I could see Veracity coming above it, a fake out and then coming back below, making some higher lows, doing something like this. And I think the squeeze play would be between this horizontal at 1.8 cents and the weekly 10. That's real. So on your chart, I would literally just put on a lower time frame, but with the weekly 10, draw a horizontal at 1.8 cents and see how price is interacting with those two ideas, because it's going to squeeze. And either way, it's going to be aggressive. It's not just going to go like this. It's not going to go, and it's not just going to keep chopping around either. It will jettison out one way or another. And so the pinnacle of that could be in March, could be a little sooner. It doesn't have to happen right as the weekly 10, is on top of. See how it's on top of this line here? It doesn't have to get that close. But, if you are a proponent of Bitcoin finding support at the weekly, at the origin line, I mean, this could be a fairly decent DCA opportunity. If your analysis is that Bitcoin will bounce. If you think that Bitcoin is not going to bounce here and find support at the origin line, well, then you might want to wait, because this is going to come straight down to under a penny. The move will take it down under a penny if Bitcoin goes down and this is squeezed out of it at the same time. All right, let's look at BPRO. All right, thanks, Ben. BPRO. I need my brain to work. Let me take a sip of coffee. Okay. I picked up a little bit of BPRO this morning, several hours before this live call. So when I first got into it, I was getting into it about 0.0028. So I decided, I didn't go all in. So the amount of BPRO that I want in total, okay, I picked up about 20% of that, because I still think that there's a decent chance price either chops around for a long time or has a capitulation event. Therefore, for example, if I want 8 million BPRO again, for example, I don't want to buy all 8 million right now. I want to wait. Even if that means waiting makes me buy higher, I don't care, because the threat to the downside is greater. But I don't know. So I want to be very transparent. I did buy some before this. It was several hours ago before this live stream, but I think I just need to be transparent about that. Dang it, my origin lines got all screwed up again. So take a look. No surprise here, right? What is making price get rejected? What line is that? What's that red line? Just like everything else in crypto and its cousins, sisters, and brothers. The weekly 10. But I think, let's take a look at horizontal. Sorry about my origin. Here, I'll just take my origin lines off. You're going to, so kind of like Veracity, you're going to have a squeeze play between a very important horizontal and the weekly 10. Same exact play. Same dang thing. So you want to make a box somewhere around, where this previous low was, the current low. It's not a coincidence that this current low is exactly the same price point as that, right? You want to make roughly a box, and then you'll want to have the weekly 10 on, and you're going to want to see how price is interacting and bouncing around the box. Here, the box and how it's getting resisted by the 10, because there's going to be another squeeze play as this 10 gets closer and closer and closer, squeezing price, because this is a floor. So this is the other hand on the soap bar, this box and this one, and pressure's building, and these are really the only two things to be looking at. Yeah, the weekly 10 is the play out of all of crypto right now. It's the thing to be looking at. It's just true. Yeah, there you go. That would be my analysis. So this box is between 0.003 and 0.0023. That'd be your box. Just keep an eye out on that. And keep an eye on Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin starts heading down, BPro is going to start using this as resistance, and it's going to not have the power to even get up to there, and it's going to start coming down. It'll use this bottom portion as resistance, and it's going to float down, right? So this box will allow you to be defensive as well, for regardless of whether or not Bitcoin uses the origin line as support. So the three things to be looking at for BPro is the price of Bitcoin with its origin line. Number two, this box around 0.003 down to 0.0023. And then number three, the weekly 10. And again, my anticipation is that it's going to bounce around between this and the weekly 10 until something happens. And that something could be up or it could be down, but it's going to happen on Bitcoin as well. And Bitcoin is also on the edge. And is it a coincidence that most cryptos are also on some important edge of a squeeze play? No, it's not. It's all going to happen together. It's one big crypto setup, and the way it works out is I don't know if it's going to squeeze up or squeeze down. I don't want to guess that, but in the meantime, that gives you between 15 to 30 days, 15 to 30 to 40 days to kind of anticipate it's just going to chop here, and the weekly 10 is going to be resistance, and this is going to be support. But what happens after that, I can't make that conjecture yet. It's really going to depend on how global events roll out. And how traditional markets do. So, speaking of traditional markets, look at that. Look at my origin line on the NASDAQ composite. Got that bounce so far perfectly. And that's not a coincidence. Let's go back to the last time. Look, last time it hit the origin line, boom. So, the stock market also, and stocks. Look, this is the same weekly 10. So potential squeeze play coming up between the origin line. This is the NASDAQ composite. Futures, specifically. This is the futures. So the ticker is, you can see the ticker right here. It's a little dull, but NQ1 exclamation. And you should probably save this to your charts. So you have a squeeze play. Also, same EMA on traditional markets. The weekly 10 coming down and approaching this origin line. And the move could be violent as well. And it might be about so this time frame is going to be a lot bigger, right? Because this is the weekly chart, but this could be, it's about March as well, March, April. So yeah, March, April is going to be a big event for traditional markets and Bitcoin and all of crypto. It's all converging to the same point, folks. It's all converging to somewhere in March, April. Something big's going to happen, I'm telling you. It's not going to be a small move. All right. Hathor, I don't know what okay, a quick look at Matic. Okay. 𝘾𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐴𝐴. Hey, 𝘾𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐴𝐴. I'll get you next, and I'm probably gonna have to get off. I'm not for sure what your question is. I see your super chat come up, but I don't see a question associated with it. So ask. Oh no, Matic. Okay, you're the one to ask for Matic. All right. Let's look at Matic here. I think that I'm currently in a Matic long. As Bitcoin was heading down to its last blue, so as Bitcoin was heading down to its last blue line right here, I did start doing very, very, very small amount of leverage, like 2 or 3, right? Just kind of getting into position, expecting a bounce. Yeah, I think Matic, because Matic has a long way up to its 10. Its weekly 10. That's a big move. 25%. Its weekly 10 is now it's about 20%, but that's still a big move. So I think Matic, and it's an origin line here. Let me get rid of this. Actually, no, this range is still in play. So remember from my, I don't know who saw this, but in my analysis of Matic, way back here on YouTube, I said, well, it's either going to break above this line, hit this triangle, or it's going to stay below and come into this triangle, and it's actually done that. So, but it's now in this range. You might want to pay attention to this because this range is where it's at right now. It fell back into this range. Let's take a look. But also focus on the idea that it's hanging on an origin line just like Bitcoin. Look, see that origin line right there? Let me make it a little brighter. See that? Just like Bitcoin, it's on an origin line. That goes back, let's see how important this origin line is for Matic. Let's just take a look. Same origin line that got all this support back here. Over how many days? 45 days. Look at that origin line. Resistance. Fell below it. Resistance. 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 Flew above. Fell below. What? Fell below the origin line. Went to 2 origin lines down and rode that small dotted one. So this is a pretty important origin line. It's got a lot of price activity throughout the last 2.5 years. This is a pretty big one. And that's another reason why I picked Matic among mine to kind of go into on this move down as an attempt, because this origin line is pretty powerful stuff for it. And I think it can move up to its weekly 10, which would be a big move. However, if you zoom into something like the 1 hour time frame, I have the origin line and this range here. And yeah, it looks like it's going to try to, so it has 2 areas of support. It got above this origin line and it got above its 1/4. So this is the bottom. This is the point of control, or the half line, like halfway court in basketball, or like in a soccer pitch, halfway through the field or whatever. And it's both got above its 1/4 line and this origin line, which are totally 2 different things, but it's happening at the same time. So focusing in on here on really small time frames, it looks like it wants to use this as support. Even if it wicks below, even if it comes down below this origin line, it still has this 1/4 line to act as support. I mean, this isn't a horrible setup. However, what you're looking for if Matic's going to be more bullish is it needs to get into this point of control, which is between 1.55 and 1.55 and 1.49. So if Matic's going to do anything special here, it needs to come up in the control zone, which I just labeled, the top and bottom of the control zone. It's going to need to use one of these 2 lines as support, either the origin line or this. It needs to come up and it needs to get in here, put in some time, or get above it and use the top as support, and then move up. And then the next line up is going to be pretty clear resistance at 166. 166. Something to that effect. Or what could happen is if it comes up, another 2 things that could happen if Bitcoin, is going to flounder here, is it could either use, it could come into it, then use the bottom as resistance and float back down. That's possible. Okay, so that's another, but just, you need to focus on the interaction on lower time frames of this range. Okay, so if it gets in, falls back below, and uses the bottom as resistance, you can expect it to go down, especially on that tick right there, if that were to happen. All right, but regardless of how it moves, it could go like this. It could go bam, use that as resistance, resistance, fall out, use that as resistance, and this would be your first heads up that it's going to come back at least to the bottom of this. And then if you see it fall out, use the bottom as resistance. It'll do one of those things. So if it pumps and fails, it'll look like that. But if it comes up, it'll look like the first one I gave. It's probably, might have a little hesitation there, come straight up, do this, something to that effect, or go above, use it as support, and then it's going to use 1.66 as resistance. But yeah, I would draw these 3 lines on your chart. One of those 3 price paths is very most likely contingent upon what the hell Bitcoin's getting ready to do. Trias, sell into weekly. Yeah. Okay, so question. Okay, good. Michael, that's a great question. So either way, you're looking to sell into the rally. That is smart, my man. That is very smart. Okay, but the question is, what do I sell into? All right. Man, Trias is at a pretty good price point. Not financial advice. Definitely not. I would have preferred to pick it up somewhere closer to 447, but man, close enough is close enough. All right, so let's put on... I bet, is the weekly 10 below this already? Let's see here. Weekly 10, which one are you? That's the daily 200. That's, oh, it's already below it. Or the 1 hour 200. 1 hour 200. Ugh. Okay, so if you, for example, were picking up Trias now, and it came up to that, that'd be a 10% trade, as you know, as it takes time to get up to it. You could actually do both, Mike, because it's likely that it'll use this as resistance first. You could sell into it, and then when you do that, if it starts making a higher low, you can just buy back, and with the same amount of money, you'll have more Trias. But if you don't see a higher low go, that means, hey, I already sold, and it comes down lower. So either way, selling into the 1 hour 200 EMA, which is good that you are aware that these are very important EMAs. I think that is the winning strategy. I really don't see it making a lower low like it. So it's a low, a lower low, a lower low. I don't see it making two lower lows then screaming above. Or you could. So folks. Let me be very clear. So what I'm doing with Mike right now, since he gave me a super chat, this is the crap I do on Discord. I give like very, very specific strategies. I'm not really for sure how to manage that on the YouTube live stuff, but he did just throw a super chat. So I'm gonna try to be more specific, but within the Discord community, again, links to that are in the description section of all my videos. Like, I give very, very specific detail on different strategies, whether it's an entry, profit taking, and or the risk management of setting stops, and sometimes all three, depending on what the person needs. But different community members, sometimes they already feel comfortable with stops, but not necessarily their entry, so they only ask about the entry, so on and so forth. But there are only three things to trading, right? You have entries, you have profit taking strategy, or entry strategies, profit taking strategies, and risk management strategies. That's it. Any question about crypto boils down to one of those things, unless you're an investor. I guess investing is a little bit different, but if you're clicking around with your money, that's everything boils down to those three things. All right. Yeah. Or you could mix up that idea. You could do sell into it halfway, and then if a higher low is made, then you can still buy with that tether from half. You buy more Trias with that half, and then wait and then sell into. I would also sell into the weekly 10 in that case. But that half protects you if it comes back down. Well, at least only half of your money is stuck in Trias in the event it does. I mean, it really looks like it wants to test this at some point, 4.47. So it would at least pad you. And really so only half of your Trias would be at about a 7% loss, but the other half is at a 10% gain. So even in that, it's guaranteed not to be perfect, but it's also guaranteed not to suck, right? And sometimes that's the winning strategy, is you pick a strategy that isn't trying to go for a home run, but you're going for a single every time. You just want to get on base. And that's a baseball reference, folks, for folks not from America or Dominican Republic, where they play baseball even more than us, per capita by far. But yeah, baseball reference. So that means, like, don't try to kick a goal from way long. Try to, work with your team and get a nice setup so somebody can chip it to you and headbutt it in, or you're a team play around the goalie instead of just trying to be Lionel Messi and drive past everybody and shoot it because you're a soccer god. Don't try to be Lionel Messi. Try to be, a team player here. And that would be my two strategies. But if you don't have the time to commit to doing it, I mean, you could just do like the whole. And you don't want to piss around, you can just sell into it completely, wait for a higher low, and if the higher low does form, then get it back and then sell into there, just depending on how much time you can commit. Yeah, that's a great question. That means you're really studying this stuff, Mike. You're really paying attention. That's awesome. That question means you are definitely a student of the charts. I really like to see that. 470, yeah. So, yeah. Shit, I might join you on that, man. That doesn't look like a bad trade. That's really actually a pretty good setup. Let's look at what Bitcoin's doing though. Is Bitcoin trying to do this? Yeah. Yeah, 470 is probably going to be a pretty solid entry on Trias. That would be my game plan. You could pick one of those though. You can mix it up or do one or the other. But either way, I would probably sell something into that 1 hour 200 and then look for the higher low. That's what I would do. Again, these are Pokemon cards for Trias only, not financial advice. I think it's a good trade setup, man. That means you were patient. Good job. All right, what else do we got going on here? Buttress. Yeah, good job, Mike. All right, I do have to wrap this up. I went 17 minutes over my time here. And again, Tuesdays and Thursdays at the same time, 10:30 a.m. New York time. We'll see you next Thursday. And if you want more specific, answers to your questions, go ahead and check out the Discord community. I go live with video and voice, so you don't have to type at me. Up to 8 times a week for Cryptillions. It's only 1 hour a week split. So for the lowest tier, it's 2 times a week for a half hour on Wednesdays and Thursdays. But you can still jump on and ask me questions with your voice.